Welcome to the Compact Mysteries podcast from compactmysteries.com, the show where we try to unravel a different bite-sized mystery each week. From baffling disappearances and strange objects, to unexplained events and mysterious places. This is episode 49, The Disappearance of Ambrose Bierce. Ambrose Gwinnett Bierce was born on the 24th of June 1842 in a log cabin in Meigs County, Ohio. He was one of 13 children raised by his parents, who encouraged literacy and debate. Early on, Bierce developed a sharp tongue, a skeptical mind, and a fascination with the darker edges of human nature. By his teens, he had become a printer's devil, that is, an errand boy who mixed ink and performed other menial tasks at an abolitionist newspaper in Indiana. That early exposure to typesetting and polemics ignited a lifelong passion for language and critique. When the American Civil War erupted, Bierce enlisted in the Union Army, served with the 9th Indiana Infantry, fought at Shiloh and Chickamauga, and witnessed horrors that would later permeate his fiction. When the war ended, Bierce parlayed his experience and razor-sharp intellect into a writing career, first as a journalist and eventually as a celebrated short story author and satirist. By the time he settled in San Francisco, he was already earning a reputation as a literary firebrand with no tolerance for fools or falsehoods. Bierce was as sharp as the bayonets he once carried, a man whose pen could cut deeper than most swords. He became one of America's most distinctive literary voices, blending dark realism, biting satire, and a fascination with the supernatural. His dark and haunting short stories, especially those set during the Civil War, such as An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, were grimly ironic and psychologically intense, earning him praise from literary contemporaries like H.L. Mencken and later comparisons to Edgar Allan Poe. His most famous work, The Devil's Dictionary, was a masterclass in sardonic wit, turning conventional definitions on their heads with deadly precision. In both fiction and journalism, Bierce was fearless, a relentless critic of hypocrisy, corruption, and sentimentality, and was widely regarded as one of America's most caustic and compelling literary voices, a war-hardened cynic whose fearless prose and unflinching wit had earned him both acclaim and notoriety. Then in 1913, at the age of 71, he undertook a journey that would transform his status from literary rebel to one of history's most compelling vanishing acts. In October 1913, Bierce left Washington, D.C., reportedly bound for Mexico. He said he wished to revisit some of his old battlefields, but his true motivation remains murky. The Mexican Revolution was underway and northern Mexico was in turmoil. Bierce was drawn to it perhaps as a war correspondent, or perhaps as something else entirely. He passed through Louisiana and Texas and is believed to have crossed the border via El Paso, Texas, into Mexico. His last confirmed letter to friend Blanche Partington, or others, is dated the 26th of December 1913, written from Chihuahua. In it he wrote, "As to me, I leave here tomorrow for an unknown destination. After that, he disappears. No further credible communication, no confirmed sighting, and no body, only speculation and shadows." Bierce vanished into a region racked by war, shifting allegiances, and sparse record-keeping. Mexico's northern provinces in 1913-14 were chaotic, with revolutionary armies, federal forces fighting, shifting borders, and countless disappearances. In that fog of conflict, a 71-year-old American writer could vanish without a trace. That fact alone creates fertile ground for myth, legend, and speculation. Time magazine later listed his disappearance among the greatest unsolved vanishings, but the absence of firm evidence means that even today, no consensus exists on his fate. There are several leading theories about what happened to Ambrose Bierce. One of them suggests that Bierce rode with or near revolutionary forces, most notably those of Pancho Villa, and was killed in battle or executed as a foreigner or spy. Some sources claim he died at the siege of Ojinaga in January 1914. According to oral tradition from Sierra Mojada, Coahuila, a gravestone there bearing his name, marks the spot where he was executed by a federal firing squad. Another possibility is that Bierce deliberately vanished, perhaps by suicide or retreat into anonymity. In his final letter he wrote, If you hear of my being stood up against a Mexican stone wall and shot to rags, please know that I think this is a pretty good way to depart this life. Some believe this was not bravado, but a signal of his intention. However, some skeptics, like investigator Joe Nickel, suggest Bierce went alone into the Grand Canyon region and ended his life there. A third view holds that Bierce simply drifted off the radar, either by choice or accident, and died quietly without record in Mexico or the American West. Due to inadequate records and political chaos, his death went unrecorded. He may have assumed a new identity, suffered hardship, or succumbed to disease. Some literary scholars suggest that Bierce's disappearance fits the pattern of his own fiction: blurred boundaries between life and death, unresolved endings, vanishing into the void. His story becomes metafictional, an author known for tales of mortality who disappears without a trace. Bierce's disappearance appeals because it unites three potent ingredients: a prominent figure, a concrete last act, crossing into Mexico, and no resolution. Combined with his dark literary reputation, his disappearance reads like one of his own stories. His body of work, soldier-turned-writer, satirist-turned-existential chronicler, made him the kind of person who might vanish on purpose. He wrote about death, war, and nihilism. When he said that, standing up against a Mexican stone wall being shot to rags was a good way to die, it kind of makes sense given who he was. Moreover, the era matters. The Mexican Revolution era is understudied in terms of missing persons, and the lack of formal record-keeping allows mysteries to persist. Bierce's case becomes emblematic of the countless unaccounted lives in conflict zones, though his fame elevates it to legend. Though the broad outlines are clear, many details remain contested. The last letter of December 1913 is authentic, but some question its delivery, authenticity, and whether subsequent correspondence might exist. Some alleged reports of Bierce in later years, in Texas or New Mexico, have been disproved or are unreliable. The Sierra Mojada grave marker was placed in 2004 and is not based on identified remains. It is symbolic rather than forensic proof. No government or academic body has definitively declared his fate. His name appears on lists of missing persons, effectively presumed dead, but with where and when unresolved. Ambrose Bierce's disappearance reverberates because it mirrors the themes of his writing. His fiction often ends with ambiguity, death, or unresolved return. His life ended as one of his characters might, with a doorway left open and the narrator never reappearing. Novelist Carlos Fuentes fictionalized the story in The Old Gringo, showing how Bierce's life entered myth. Today, his disappearance shapes his legacy. He is not simply the author of An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. He is the man who disappeared at the edge of the map. For the literary world, this is fitting. Bierce wrote about war's pointless cruelty and humanity's frailty. His disappearance into the violence of a revolution and into the desert underscores those themes. Whether he died by violence, by choice, or by obscure neglect, his disappearance remains a final act of mystery. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Compact Mysteries podcast from compactmysteries.com. If you did, why not leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts? And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you would like to support us more directly, please consider buying us a coffee. Head on over to compacthistories.com/mysteriescoffee to see how. Also, please check out our other Compact podcasts. You will find them all at compacthistories.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.